This is Will and Paige from the Beyond HR podcast. The cool thing about today is that we're going to have a special episode. Even though we're not going to have one of our amazing guests here with us today, we get this wonderful opportunity for our episode 10, which is an amazing milestone to talk a little more about us and who we are and how we got to this space of being podcasters and being able to share our vision and mission of what we do and what we want to accomplish and what we want to share with the world of HR and human leaders in general. So, thanks so much for tuning in with us and being here and sharing this moment with us. And I hope that you guys get to know us a little more as we love to get to know you folks as well.
Welcome to Beyond HR, the podcast for people first leaders who know that HR is about more than checklists and compliance. I'm Paige, your co-host, and we will explore the real challenges shaping today's workplaces. From burnout and belonging to strategy and storytelling, we're bringing you honest conversations, practical insights, and a fresh take on what it means to lead with heart in the world of work. Before we dive into our episode, a quick shout out to Manpower for generously providing the space where we record Beyond HR. And here's a quick word from our launch sponsor.
If you're feeling stretched thin, juggling big changes, emotional labor, and communication breakdowns, you're not alone. Hi everyone, I'm Dan Kaplan, founder of Bring Disc to Life, an online community for aspiring leaders and HR professionals. We give you the strategies, tools, and encouragement to communicate in ways that increase your influence while lowering your stress. Using DISC, the 5 behaviors, and mindfulness, you'll learn to stay grounded, read minds, and frame your message to influence others. We have live workshops every month, group coaching to unpack tough situations, and tons of easy-to-use scripts, strategies, and resources that you can apply right away without adding more to your plate. So come refuel with a community that gets you and wants to help you speak your truth in a way that's heard. Join us at confidentcommunicator.com and click on community. That's confidentcommunicator.com. Lead yourself and others will follow.
I think what we're going to want to start off with is a little more about our backstory as far as HR and how we come to be HR people. And then we can kind of hop into a little more about how this wonderful, so special project of ours came into existence. So I'm going to let you take on to explain and share with us your backstory.
You got it. So, man, I'm going to really have to think back now of how I got started in the whole world of HR because it's been about a decade, which doesn't seem like a long time, but so much happened, from then and now.
Yeah.
So, back in, was it well, I'm not even going to specify years. I don't want to age myself here. So I'll just start with when I was going for my associate's degree. So started at Hagerstown Community College, going for my associate's degree in early childhood education. And I knew that I loved kids at that time and I loved developing people, and I thought the only option of that was actually through teaching kids. So I got my associate's degree, but here's the thing. I actually failed the praxis exam by 3 points and leading me not to getting an associate's degree in early childhood education. Now you're probably thinking, why would you share that for the world to hear that you failed something? Because I am okay with failing as long as I learn from it. And so
Yep.
I
Yep.
learned at that point that there were different opportunities out there. So I utilized that to my full potential. And so I got my associate's degree in general arts and sciences. Fine. Went on for my bachelor's degree and I majored in business administration. And talking with the counselors there, I learned that human resources was actually a minor option. We were talking about different things, what I liked to do at that point in my life. And they said HR was a minor option. And I said, you know what? It doesn't hurt. It's just a minor, just a minor. Then I
A
I
very,
got
very time-consuming minor.
it is a time-consuming minor. It's a labor of love, just like this podcast, right?
Right.
But it's all for the good. So
Hmm.
looking forward, got my first HR gig in a one-person department. Technically, it was a one-person department, but I had somebody that kind of oversaw me. They were in the like HR manager slash accounting space. That goes to show you how small we truly were. So I was
Mhm.
there for a little while, and I was able to build that HR department from the ground up, more so administrative side. So, got a really great opportunity at a waste and recycling facility after that. It was definitely a step in the right direction. I was more of that generalist type of role. They had about 125 folks that worked for them. So it was definitely different than 50. You know, once you hit 50, you run into newer laws that you now have to follow, which is why I got my first HR gig to begin with. So moving to that
Right.
the waste and recycling facility, it was great. I learned a ton. It was more so administrative though, and really partnering with um, the leadership there, and essentially, recruiting, onboarding, payroll, all the things that I was still in HR department of one at that point. Let me just kind of throw that out there. And so it was a really great experience with a lot more employees. It taught me a lot, honestly, about even like the CDL type of hiring industry. It was pretty neat. I
Mhm.
never thought that I would know what I think it's called the birthing period. It's essentially when they have to stop moving the truck because they've drove for too many hours. Sleeper birth, that's what
Like a
it's called.
reset. Yeah.
It's all coming back to me now. So it's pretty cool how like the funny things that you learn throughout, the times there. But they had a plant, they had a maintenance area, they had CDL drivers, they had office folks. So I learned a ton through that, especially about relationship building, of all different types of people, all different walks of life. So it was great. Well, then someone had reached out to me about it was called an HR generalist two role, and about an 800 employee company, and they were a food facility. And I I loved it there. And really, what I focused on there was more of that training and development side, employer relations, supporting recruitment where I could. I wasn't the main recruiter. We had special recruiters for that. We were a larger department. So I got the taste of actually working with a larger HR department and 800 employees. So it was a great time there. I worked a lot essentially, but I learned a ton, especially from my manager at the time. Honestly, a part of me thinks that I wouldn't be where I am now without her knowledge that she actually gave to me. And I just soaked it all in. I was essentially a sponge at that point. So then I moved on to an HR manager role. So, getting up in the ranks again. So I moved on to an HR manager role. I led a team of five, which was really cool. I was able to build that HR department essentially from the ground up. We had a lot of opportunity within that department. And it was a time of really relationship building with those folks. And that company had about 450-ish employees, two plants, one in Indiana and then one in Hagerstown. Um, but honestly, so I reported at that time to their CFO, and he is still my mentor to this day. I still chat with him. He's now retired at this point in his life. But he was great to work for, and I learned a ton from him. And he also gave me a lot of autonomy to do essentially what I needed to do within, some guidelines. But I am personally a very creative person. So if I'm not able to be creative, I'm essentially not fulfilled and I'm bored and it's kind of time to move on. And that probably makes me sound kind of millennial-ish, I guess you could say, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter to me, but that's a part of my fulfillment. I have to be able to
Yeah.
be creative and I have to have autonomy. I don't do well with, type of micro managers type. So kind of like moving forward, we were acquired by a much, much, much larger company, and I was working the wazoo hours. It was crazy hours that I was working. And I went through trials and tribulations there, but I learned at that point that I really did need to be creative. And the way that they had things kind of structured was they would kind of tell you from like a corporate level on what to do at the plant level, and then you would just have to kind of see it through. Whereas I love to say, okay, let's get down in the nitty gritty and let's talk about what the best opportunity is and then do it. I love that more
Sure.
strategic type of viewpoint of things. So it kind of took my creativity. Plus, I was exhausted because, with any acquisition, it's a ton of work, a ton of work. And it was just very taxing. I started to have a lot of health problems. And then, me having two little girls at the time, I mean, I was getting no sleep and it was just making things worse. And then my kids would get sick and then I would have to be home. And so I just thought it was the best possible thing for me at the moment to actually look for a fully remote job. So I kind of took a step back, and took an HR liaison, which essentially is a business partner in their world. Took that liaison position, worked fully remote for about a year. Unfortunately, they had some new leadership that came in. They're doing really great things still. But they took away fully remote work for those business partners. And I was 5 hours one way from the campus, and they
Oof,
didn't really
that's a
pay for
hike.
travel. It's tough. I mean, and especially when they didn't pay for travel. So how can I be there at least one day a week without traveling over 3 days? So it just didn't make sense at that point, and so now I'm back to being an HR department of one. It's something always brings me back to being an HR department of one, but I feel, and it's within a smaller company. It's actually a religious company and a small company, about 48-ish employees. Um, but I'm able to be creative and I have a lot of autonomy within specific guidelines, but they're also very collaborative folks too. So that's kind of like my journey and how I got started in HR. And I loved HR so much that I went back for my certification and a master's degree within HR specifically. So clearly there's something
Yeah,
that always brings me back to HR, and
yeah.
it's kind of like when you get in you can't get out.
So one of the things that we actually didn't really follow our typical trend is um behind who you are as a person and behind
Mhm.
your job and all the masks, who are you at your core that got you into this work?
Who am I at my core? I have been finding this throughout the years, and me at my core has changed so much over this
Hmm.
past decade. And honestly, me at my core, I think I finally figured it out, which I'm sure it'll change again because we are always growing and developing ourselves. But I am an introvert yet an extrovert at the same exact time. And if you would meet me in person, you would probably never know that I'm actually an introvert in a sense. I need
Hmm.
that quiet time. So I
You're
would
the
say I'm an
ambivert, I think is the term. Yeah, ambivert.
is it? Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. Never heard of it.
I learned it
So I
recently. Yeah.
but I'm an introvert extrovert, but I really do care about the human aspect of work. I feel like you cannot be you cannot have a mask on at all at work because it's not effective in my mind. And I got into HR knowing that I wanted to be different than what the kind of persona, or reputation that HR has had over the years. And I wanted to go in and I wanted to make a true difference. I wanted people to feel safe, secure. I wanted them to feel heard, respected, and trusting enough to come to me and say, "What is going on? I need to know, and I need your help, or fill in the blanks, whatever you want to do. So
Mhm.
I think overarching, I would say that I am a huge empath. Um, and I just try to be the best version of myself every single day. It's really hard to say who you are at your core. I mean, I know myself better than, any other thing. And I would say I'm also spiritual too. And I found that kind of through the many, many years. That's kind of who I am. So, who are you
Yeah.
at your core, Will?
Yeah, and to your point, it does change over time. But I think aspects of it. I think there's definitely some essences that still carry on. But I know for me, I've always been a people person. Even before I got into HR, I remember as far back as when I was a little kid, I always had to be the person that or the kid that was approaching other kids when they got hurt, asking them how they were
Mm-hmm.
doing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Where everybody else would keep on going to play and do their own thing. Like I would come up to another kid and be like, "Hey, are you okay?" I remember in elementary school, middle school, even high school, like if I saw somebody that maybe wasn't the popular kid, um,
Mm-hmm.
even though myself I was not the popular kid, I was part of that subgroup within the geek nerd world. That I had acquaintances, but I wouldn't say that I hung out with any of them outside of work. Um, Even within that aspect of who I was still looking or hyper aware of other kids around me that seemed like something wasn't right, to have
Mm-hmm.
that nuance of being like, is everything okay? Is there something you need? Even though in that moment I didn't know what that was. Now, understanding the empathy of who I am, or who I try to be, doesn't mean that I always get it right. But and I think that's one of the things that attracted me to HR long term. So different to you, I did not go into HR as part of a career path or education. I have attended college, but it wasn't in the realm of HR per se. I actually bumped into HR by accident, as a lot of folks in HR have over the years. My very first HR like job was just picking up phones and screening people's resumes and applications. And that was strictly because they needed somebody bilingual. So English is a second language for me, Spanish being the first. And my very first out of college or out of high school job, outside from fast foods, my first real job, I was working for Target Distribution in Chambersburg in their shipping department as one of the folks that offload trucks. Um, I actually had an accident outside of work that resulted in some fractures that would not allow me to go back to do that kind of work because it was too much weight for my body. So I ended up having to force myself to look for another job, and then I found a local staffing company that was looking for a bilingual phone screening person. They called him sorcerer, even though it sounds like a magical wand kind of person. uh,
A
but
sorcerer.
yeah, bilingual sorcerer. Um, and once I got into that, and kind of started dabbling in the recruiting world, I realized that the next tier up from what I was doing was a better way of pushing my family at that time, further in the financial aspect of it. So I worked really hard, had to bust my butt a little bit to get to a promotion into a commission recruiter position. But once I got to that space, I realize that there's a lot of time commitment within the staffing world. So if there are any people in staffing that are listening to the episode today, I commend you. Respect what you do because it can be very time tasking, and emotionally tasking as well. Um, yeah, so I did that for a couple of years. At that point, I was a brand new dad, brand new spouse. It was just a lot, so I decided to look out as elsewhere. And another local company was looking for an HR coordinator position, bilingual as well. So I've been blessed to have two languages that I can back up on, and have helped me catapult myself into my career. Um, it was hired there, and that's kind of was my very first. holistic HR position. I oversaw everything from recruitment to employee relations to benefit administration, things, compensation, things like that. And honestly, ever since then, I really haven't stepped away from HR except for one time. And I always tell folks that's the one time that I'm trying to get away from HR. I was operations supervisor for a distribution center in Winchester, Virginia, and life took me to a different part of the country, and I had to, had to resign that position. But once I got to the other part of the country, I ended up back in HR. So it's not like I really stayed outside of it. And I think for me, because at my core, I have this desire to help people. Over time, it's morphed into not just help people from the perspective of getting them a job, but also help them from the perspective of becoming better human beings. Um,
Mhm.
and whatever that may look like. And I am a firm believer and proponent, even in my current job, where I tell folks, I want you to be a better version of yourself. Preferably, I would love for that to be here. But if that means that you need to step outside of our company to make that happen, I am all for it. I root for you, and I definitely wish the best for you in your endeavors. So, I do believe that every human being desires belonging, desires a need to succeed and be a better version of themselves. It's just that a lot of us don't know how.
Mhm.
And either because we're ignorant of the how, or because at the end of the day, a lot of us are still in survival mode, so we don't have the ability to sit back and look into that aspect of who we are. Um, so yeah, so then I think kind of transitioning from that to what we're here doing. Um, in my mind, this podcast has been a a heart project and a heart um, venture into that aspect of helping people be better versions of themselves, um, layered with my own love journal to myself.
Mhm.
And you and I have talked about before how this whole idea came about with the Beyond HR podcast. And I know for myself, as each episode we dive into the aspect of burning out in our professions and what that means, or losing that flame in the passion of the things that we do. Um, I That's been my experience in my own HR career multiple different times, where we get so caught up in trying to function in our roles on the day to day, let it be administrative, for folks that are specialized in employee relations only, being caught up in the fact that every day you're trying to solve problems or trying to put out fires. Just everything that comes with that can be very, very energetically draining. Um,
Mhm.
and ultimately that leads into the what we call burnout phase of our career. But in reality, burnout is just either a loss of of focus in what we're doing, or maybe a loss um, of finding out our why, or
Mhm.
reframing that why, or even kind of one thing that I've learned recently is our ability to be able to find what our core values are, and the minute that what we do is misaligned to that core value, that discrepancy between the two causes us to get to a space where we feel burnt out. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're focused so much on dealing with the burnout, which is the symptom, that we don't realize that the disease that gives you that symptom is the fact that you're misaligned to your core values. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that that's
We talk about root cause all the time, right, in our
mhm,
jobs. Like, why aren't we doing that
mhm,
for ourselves? And
yeah,
so even like this podcast too for me, um kind of going back a little bit. So hearing you talk, sometimes I can't find the words to put to certain things. And that is probably one of the most vulnerable things I'll say on here. But it's true. I mean,
yeah,
I cannot always find the words, right? But hearing you talk, I feel like with me, I am a nurturer and I love to develop people. And that's actually why I started within elementary education, early childhood education.
mhm,
Um, and then that's what got me into HR because I could do both.
mhm,
And I'm realizing now where
if I'm not able to do that, I am not fulfilled, which then leads to me feeling like I'm burnt out. When in reality, I'm not burnt out. I'm just tired of doing the same old things that do not fulfill me to fulfill
Hmm.
my passion. And
Yeah.
so people are probably thinking, like, how do you figure that out? And so, I was talking with somebody and they said, find a coach, find a mentor that can actually sit down and help you kind of digest these things and trying to put the words on paper of how you're feeling, because that's the hardest part. In
Hmm.
in my perspective, I think the hardest part is trying to figure out your purpose and your why, and trying to figure out why you actually like to do those things, which is odd. But then you're able to actually do more things that you love, and then you will feel fulfilled, and then you will love your passion. And then, it's just kind of
It's a
like
trickle effect. Yeah.
it's a trickle effect.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say domino effect. I'm like, wait, that's going down. That's not good. See,
But
see,
yeah.
lots of words, lots of words.
No, you're
But
good.
yeah, I mean, talking with all of these people it's a very great learning experience for
Hmm.
me too. Um, I learn at least one little nugget
Oh
from
yeah.
everyone I talk to, just because they're giving you different perspectives and knowledge bases that you don't necessarily take the time to think about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think one of the great things about this is kind of like I was alluding to earlier about this being my own, love journal, is the fact that, for anybody listening, like, we're learning and we're receiving as much from these having as we're sharing with the world. So
Hmm.
like whenever I go into every single conversation that we're having, my first thought isn't, oh, I hope that somebody enjoys what they're going to listen. It's literally like, what can I learn from this person that I'm talking to? What kind of energy transfer are we going to have for me to be able to open up my eyes and my heart to whatever, needs to be told to me in that moment, so that I can not feel the way I do. Because even to this day, and this is not meant as an insult to, my current employer, or any other thing that I do, to this day, there are aspects of my job that are very draining and very, you know, as I say, life sucking at times, just because of the nature of what that task or thing is. And
Sure.
so being able to have those moments of like clarity when somebody's talking to you about, you know, um, I don't know, fill in the blank. It could be, refocusing your energy, refocusing your mindset, looking at the silver linings, or maybe, again, my biggest takeaway recently is that misalignment of values and what you're doing, that can give you that sense of like, oh my gosh, why am I stuck in this job? Why am I doing this thing over and over again the way that I'm doing it? Um, it's a good way to help opening up the mind and the heart to what that message needs to be. And in my mind, I'm just blessed that I get to have other people hear about it, and hopefully it touches them in a way that it touches us. Because yeah, I mean, there's that, and for some folks, I mean, obviously the wonderful magic art of editing is, sometimes
Hmm.
takes away some of that. But I mean, there's times that, I mean, I've teared up and sometimes even cried in some of the episodes that we're recording behind the scenes, because the message of what we're learning and what's being spoken to us is so strong that it's like it just hits you right in the middle of your heart, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's
Hmm.
exactly the way that I would have. I don't even know how you said it is a perfect way of explaining it that I haven't been able to wrap my head around in the last couple of days, because
Yeah.
I'm. Oh, you know, and there is a lot of vulnerability in not just us trying to understand, but the people sharing it with us have been so amazing, and so like willing to put themselves in that spot of, this is where I used to be and this is how I got out of there. You know.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, we want to give a special thank you to two of our sponsors. First, we'd like to once again thank our launch sponsor, the Bring Disc to Life community at confidentcommunicator.com, for their generous support. We also want to thank one of our founding supporter sponsors, Chain Solutions. They have believed in the Beyond HR podcast since day one, and we are proud to have them alongside us. Chain Solutions has been a trusted name and background screening for just over 20 years. They are accredited, use secure mobile first technology, and offer incredible responsive support with an average response time of just 18 minutes. If you're in need of a background screening partner who gets it right, fast and secure, Chain Solutions is one to know. And just for our listeners, they are waiving their usual $250 setup fee. Just mention you heard about them on the Beyond HR podcast. Thanks again to Chain Solutions for being a part of our journey. So powerful too. And like Will said, I'm also the same exact way. So if anybody follows zodiacs, okay, I follow zodiacs, I follow horoscopes. That's who I am. It's not going to change. But I love doing those things. And
Hmm.
um, I am the Cancer zodiac. So if you know anything about Cancer zodiacs, you know that the normal things that people think about when they think about Cancer is you're emotional. You get bored very easily. You don't ever want to feel stagnant. You are just emotional, 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 emotional. Like all of the emotional, I'm telling you, every single time I read about my zodiac, I'm like, oh, well, that's spot on. No wonder I cried today. Well, that's spot on. I mean, that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
being that type of emotional person, when something really resonates with you, or like deep down, you have not dealt with that thing that they just said, it hits you like a ton of bricks. It's like, well, maybe it
Hmm.
hits you like a truck. I don't know what's heavier, right? So, well, truck's heavier. That was
Yeah.
dumb. Um,
Not very
but
good.
like, but it's kind of like one of those things. You can get emotional, and I really appreciate everyone that gets on here and they are vulnerable and makes us, and I hope others, think of different ways of thinking these things. I have been listening to a different podcast aside from ours, of course. Ours comes first. But I've been listening to different podcasts, and there's this one that's kind of like in the middle of spiritual and practical.
Hmm.
And Will's wife actually sent it to me here recently about this boot camp for the
Hmm.
podcast. And so I took another step and I said, you know what? I'm going to start listening to this podcast. And boy, it's already life changing. I'm literally
Hmm.
taking, I'm recording my screen now. So if any listener is listening to this right now, I challenge you to record your screen if you are listening to the podcast on your phone, because you can take little snippets of things that you want to utilize, or like write it down if that's how you learn the best. Um,
Hmm.
if you're a visual learner, sometimes it would be good to, write it down. But all that to say, take those screenshots, take the snapshots and write down the things that you want to implement every single day. But here's what I'm going to caution you on. Do not try to change everything all at once, because your mind is
Baby
going to
steps.
spiral. I mean,
Hmm.
you are going to feel like you're spiraling, even if, it's kind of hard to explain, but just try not to eat the whole elephant. Try to take little bite
Hmm.
size. And that's
Yep.
a terrible analogy, and it's kind of pretty morbid, but it's what I was saying. You know exactly what I'm trying to say. Don't
Yep.
try to
Yep.
change your life all at once, because it's going to be very overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like with everything else, you have to do it in steps. You don't start running a marathon, but if yesterday, you want to
That's
be able
right.
to
You have
work.
to train
Yeah,
for it.
yeah,
Hmm.
and you have to work your way up there. And as always, I always say to everyone, even myself, you have to be gracious, patient, and loving to yourself in the process. Just because you know what is the right thing to do doesn't mean you're already programmed to do it. And there are
Hmm.
times that we, myself included, we tend to, I know that I'm going to start eating healthy this week because eating healthy is good for you. And I know that it's good for you because I've been told forever and there's effects. But then tomorrow something happens that I have a big, huge plate of potato chips in front of me that I happen to eat all the whole thing. Oh my God, I'm such a failure because yesterday I was bragging onto somebody that I was going to eat healthier this week, and here I am. Um, Obviously, there has to be some intention involved, and obviously, if you do this over and over again, then at some point you got to kind of hold yourself accountable. But for the most part,
Hmm.
we are human. Again, we do want to do better. That's in our human nature to do better. It's just a matter of figuring out how to do it and wrapping our head around it.
Yeah,
So that's
for
kind of
sure.
my little tidbit there. But yeah, so then going from our backstories, this wonderful love project that we're working on right now, the Beyond HR podcast. um, was practically birthed from my own need of being in a space where I felt burnt out, and that's the word that I described at that time. I felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to go about snapping out of this. I just feel like I'm spinning in the wheel and not doing anything. What am I doing? It's almost like a existential life crisis, you know. Um, and kind of adding a little backstory, for the last couple of years, my wife and I have been working very aggressively on ourselves as individuals. Take the career out of the equation. Working on trying to heal ourselves, our inner wounds, our inner traumas, and finding out what are the things that are holding us back in life. And not that my career was holding me back, but my career was one of the areas that I identified where there was a little bit of a discrepancy in how I wanted to feel and how I was feeling. But at the same time, I know that I want to be in HR. So it's not so
Mm-hmm.
much that I was looking to get out of it, which that's also a topic in itself. You might be in HR realizing that you're not fulfilled and may realize that this is not your cup of tea. So that's also a path to take. But for me, I know that I want to be in HR. I do love the people aspect of what we do. Um, but then I wanted a venue for myself to say to be able to explore, how I'm feeling and learn and nurture that aspect of who I am as a person. Uh, I was doing some the research and trying to figure out different ways of doing that, and a lot of things came up. Journaling, um, vlogging, writing blogs, um, and in one of those moments of clarity for me, podcasting kept them coming back up in the back of my head as a fun, proactive, creative way of addressing that need to document my journey in healing my career, for lack of a better phrase. And I had done some podcast stuff in the past when I lived over in Texas, um, so I wasn't foreign to it. So I said, you know what? I think this would be a great project. Let me do some research because I also want to make sure, not just for myself, but it's something that other people can benefit from. And as I started talking to more HR folks in different contexts without saying that I wanted to do a podcast, I started noticing there's a need, or there was a need across the board for other HR folks to have some kind of outlet to be able to talk about their different, challenges without feeling like, oh, we're in HR, we can't talk to anybody, kind of thing. And slowly but surely, the idea popped in my head more and more, or kept reinforcing itself. Man, there's something here with the idea of creating a podcast that's solely centered around the concept of helping HR folks, including myself, because again, this is originally for me, um, reignite the passion for the work, reframe how we do it, and find a way of bringing humanity back into our workplace. And a phrase that I'm sure you've heard me say over and over again recently that kept on coming in my mind, and it's become part of my core now, is my idea and my core feeling that I truly believe that HR professionals have the sacred responsibility to be the healers of the workplace. But it has to start with ourselves. It has to start with our own people, meaning the people that hold these spaces in the HR world. So that idea kept on growing, and then kind of putting a pause on that. You and I met, I don't know, 2 years ago now, I think, give or take, um,
Yeah, I think
maybe a year and a
so.
half.
It's hard to
Um,
track anymore.
yeah, we started working together at the Cumberland Valley Sherm chapter here in Hagerstown. Originally, as always, I always kind of show up to events and enjoy the event, and because again, my core is to help others, I
Mhm.
opened my mouth and said, "If you guys ever need any help, I'm here. Let me know." And I'm learning as other people kind of chuckle when I say that probably is the wrong thing to say to a room of HR people at a Sherm chapter event, because
That's right.
they'll take you up on it. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Open arms, open arms.
yeah. So shortly after, I ended up joining the board of directors for the CV Sherm, as a member at large, just kind of behind the scenes. And then shortly after that, you ended up coming back because you used to be on the board before.
Yes, yeah. So I took about a year hiatus. When I was working remote, they weren't necessarily supportive of like our local chapter because they weren't in this area. So, nothing against them or anything like that. But
Right, right.
yeah, I took about a year hiatus. So I think it might have been about a year or so after you joined the board that I
Hmm.
rejoined, and then they quickly put me back into the president role
Right,
for the
right.
second
And then
term.
I think,
Ah,
yeah, yeah. And I think whenever you came in, probably beginning a little before we did the New Year officers,
that's
um,
right. Yeah, I was
whatever
just pretty
whatever it's
much helping
called.
out.
Yeah, you were kind of you
Yes.
were behind the scenes assisting and whatnot, and the New Year came up, and I was like, you know what, I really enjoy working with this amazing group of women, because as I find myself typically in HR, I'm one of the very few males in the field, which is fine, it's great. So I definitely enjoyed, even though most of the things that I did was kind of just be in the background supporting, let's go team, let's go team. I still really truly enjoyed the just the interaction of the group and the vision of the organization, and or at least our local chapter, and what we were trying to accomplish. So whenever the following year came about, I was like, what, I want to be a little more aggressively involved, and then we decided to
Mhm.
open up a marketing chair, director chair, and I enjoy
Yep.
that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Um, so that kind of brings us up to the first of the year, 2025. Um, Now I'm pausing the idea and the soup behind the scenes being cooked about this podcast, and as you and I kind of got to know each other a little more, um, something about how your the values of who you are and the authenticity of who you are and just your overall energy. I know that in the past when I podcasted, I was a solo podcaster. Now I was like, well, no, this definitely gets a better feeling and a better understanding from two different perspectives. And you kept them coming in the back of my head as far as a person that I would love to do this project with. So then I reached out to you and I said, hey, Paige, guess what? This is an idea that I'm brewing. I'm gonna do it regardless, but I would love for you to join me in this venture, and I think that it would be amazing. And I see with you being the president of the our chapter, and me the marketing, and us having already kind of leadership roles, and being exposed to people around us in the HR field, like I feel like this would be a great um opportunity for us to be able to provide a service to other HR folks where they can replug, hence our catchphrase, reigniting purpose, restoring humanity, and redefining HR. That's in essence in three very simple sentences, um, summarizing what we want to accomplish with this. And you were gracious enough to say yes, even though you have your
hmm
own backstory as to how you got to that yes.
Yeah, sure. And I'll share it because I think it's intriguing. Anybody who's listening that's kind of like on that spiritual type of realm who wonders like if you see a cardinal, what does that mean? If you see um um I don't know, like a hummingbird behind you, what does that mean? Butterflies, hawks, eagles, anything that you can think of animal wise, right? So after Will had asked me, we were, and mind you, we were actually at it's like a seminar through Frederick County SHRM. Allison
Hmm.
Jones was speaking about purpose and finding your purpose, and
Good shout out
which
to
is
Allison.
yeah, good shout out to Allison because she was one of our amazing guests. She was one of our
Hmm.
first three episodes, which we were really excited about. We just connected with Allison right away. And you have those people in your life that you just connect with and you just
Yep.
kind of go with it. And you have to let go and you just have
Hmm.
to essentially make friends with them because
Yep.
that's why they are there. So anyways, we were there talking about purpose, hearing about purpose, and so Will asked me, and on my way back to the office from Frederick, so I was going from Frederick to like Emmitsburg area, so I had about a 30-minute drive, and a hawk flew right in front of my driver's side windshield, almost hitting my windshield.
Mm.
Pretty terrifying experience because I didn't want to slam on my brakes on a highway but it literally missed me by maybe like 5 inches. And now that sounds, I don't know, but it just missed my windshield. It was kind of
At 70
crazy.
miles an hour, that could have been a lot worse. Okay.
That would have been really terrible. So it swooped
Yeah.
down right in front of me. And I was like, huh, I wonder what this means. And so, of
Mm,
course, my mind just started just, I was getting intrigued. So I started looking it up and it was saying, like, you are meant for bigger things. You are meant to share your knowledge with others. You are, you know what? Let me look it up because I want you guys to understand. Hold on. I want you to really understand what it means. So, they're frequently viewed as messengers from the spiritual realm, carrying insights and guidance for those who are open to receiving them. So, I guess
mm,
it kind of opened my eyes because I literally was terrified and my eyes were wide open. Um,
mhm,
but they can symbolize a need to like pay attention to subtle signs in life. Um, they are so they really focus in meaning and clarity focused vision. So they're known for their sharp vision and ability to spot prey from great distances. So spiritually, this translates to the ability to see things with clarity, focus on what is important, and gain a broader perspective, and they symbolize strength, courage, and the ability to overcome obstacles. And their presence can be a reminder to seek deeper meaning in life and to live with greater awareness.
mm,
And the last piece of it is they encourage us to step back, gain a broader perspective, and assess situations before making decisions.
mm,
So it's pretty neat, when you hear all of these things. And I do remember hearing or in reading about you are meant for bigger things, use your inner strength and wisdom, trust your intuition, those types of things.
yeah.
It kind of told me, just do it, Paige. It's fine. You're just fearful that you can't do it. You're fearful that you can't give it your all, but you can within boundaries. We talk about, Will and I talk about boundaries really often. And so, like
Mhm.
today, we're slightly over the boundary, which is fine because I'm allowing it. I want to get some things done around my house. Typically, Fridays are my half days. And so I like to get things done around my house so I don't have to take away a lot of time from my kiddos and over the weekend time. And it just allows me to breathe. Like after this, I'm going to go for a nice little walk and then exercise afterwards because that is what
Yeah.
fulfills me. If I don't exercise, I'm typically in a bad mood. So,
Yeah.
yeah, believe it or not, you would never think that I'm ever in a bad mood by hearing me here, but I am a
Yeah.
human being. So, yeah, needless to say, I went back to Will and I said, you know what? I will do it and we'll figure it out along the way. And it has been quite the labor of love, I'd say.
It has, and I think I do not regret in any way, shape, or form. Um,
Mm-mm.
not just starting it, but where we've gotten and where we've been and where we're going to be. I do know
Mm-hmm.
that for me, again, this is still my own journal. I'm still learning from it every day. Every time that it's funny because for me, like because I do all the editing on the back end, like I get to listen to this multiple times, and it's like every time I listen to it because I'm present in a different way. The first time we're present
Mm-hmm.
as a host, and there's some different things that we're thinking. But then the second time I get to be present as the editor, so I get to be able to hear what we're talking about from completely different mindset. Man, there's things that come at me every single time I listen to an episode. And there's times that I
Like
might
watching
have a
movies, thinking about it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
Every time
watching
you watch a
movies
movie,
over and
yeah,
over again. And I
yeah,
I gave this example about Moana and how we've watched it so many times because my kids are obsessed with it, and
hmm
also Sing 2. The other day
oh
I was
yeah,
just
yeah,
watching Sing 2 again with my kiddos, and I actually enjoy that movie. It's kind of
hmm
it's cute. I love singing personally, so hearing them sing, it just gives me the
yeah,
chills. It's kind of crazy what songs and music can do to your body,
oh
and in a
yeah,
positive way, right? But
yeah,
it can also be very saddening too, listening to
hmm
specific music, so it
yeah.
can impact you. But I was watching Sing 2 the other day for the millionth time, and I did not realize that these things were happening in the background. And my husband Jared says, you didn't know that was there? I'm like, no, I literally have watched this movie several times
Yeah.
and I had no idea. And I was like, they're so cute. How did I miss them? They're little, like, I don't even know what they are.
The
Rat,
little
not
lemurs.
rats.
Yeah, the little
Yes,
lemurs. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. Dancing in the
The tap
background.
dancers. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Yep,
You knew
yep.
exactly what I was talking about. I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I say all of this because literally, just like Will said, if you are in a different headspace or you are just listening to something over and over and over again, you're going to pick up something different each and every
yeah,
time, even in a different meaning, right?
yep, yep, yeah.
Yeah.
But in layered to that would be also like the fact that if you come into each episode or just in each interaction in life with intentionality, you'll start seeing the little intricacies in your day-to-day interactions and day-to-day life. And the
Because you're
more you
looking for
expose
them.
yourself to, yeah, and even when you're not, they're just there glaring at you.
Yeah.
They could have
Yeah.
easily been there before. To your point, the little lemurs, they've been there the whole time, but because you're now more open to what's happening in front of you and have the intention of what can I learn to, what does universe have to tell me today? What
Yep.
am I supposed to learn today specifically? Your body's already, your senses are already kind of looking out for these things, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. I didn't notice
Yep.
this person was hurting today, or
Yeah.
before. And I've had this conversation with this person 3 or 4 times, but today for some reason they seem different. Is everything okay? Is there
Mm-hmm.
something that I can do for you today? Can we talk about this? Or you know what? Did you just need to have somebody to listen to you? I don't have to
Yeah.
solve the problem. I don't have to step in and do anything. Do you just need a listening ear? And I think for
Yeah.
me, as we're talking to these folks and they're bringing in their own insights, it's almost like they're helping me reprogram my brain to look at my surroundings from such a different lens that it
Mm-hmm.
helps more be willing and able to serve even more to those around us. And we're taking all that energy and wanting to create that space for HR people because we
Yep.
know as HR people that we do not have that space most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't have that um, partnership with other folks a lot of the times, not because they're not there, but because sometimes again we don't know, or maybe the resources are scarce. So this is the platform and the atmosphere that we want to create, the energy that we want to put out there in the universe, um, for anyone that's listening that feels like they just want to be able to go somewhere and listen to something that fulfills themselves again or gives them a little insight on how they can reignite their passion or redefine what it means to be an HR person, because that's been my journey. I've had to redefine what it means to be an HR person in the workplace over the last 3 or 4 years, and even to this day, like presently, I constantly redefine it, and share that with people because there is that negative stigma of HR, unfortunately, still that all we are police, the police of the workforce or the principal's office. Even this week, I heard that, I feel like I'm going to the principal's office. It's like, I don't know why. It shouldn't be that way. Like, I would love for you to visit and drop by and say hi, regardless of having an issue or not. But that's the passion of what we're creating and what we want to share with the world right now. And I'm blessed to be able to do this with you, and blessed to be able to have all these wonderful guests that volunteer their gracious time to be with us, and share their stories and their tidbits of information of how they've gotten to where they're at, and the things that drive them. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
excited of
It's
where we're going to be at. I do know that this is going to be our 10th episode dropping. I don't know if you knew that or not. So even though we're recording today on the 15th of August, when this episode releases, it'll actually line up to be our 10th episode. So I'm
oh
excited.
wonderful.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's like that 10 benchmark. I'm excited about. So, but yeah, you're gonna go ahead and say something, but
Yeah. No, I honestly would just wrap us up because I think that this has been hopefully an insightful type of conversation for folks, even
oh
if
yeah,
you're just trying to figure yourself out. but I want you to feel comfortable enough to even come to us. While we record these episodes and we talk with all of these guests, we're learning a lot too. And while we don't have the answers, we could always be a listening ear for HR folks. And
Yeah.
we're always welcoming our HR friends together, especially with Cumberland Valley SHRM too. They're a really great support system. We have great members with us, and we're doing such big things. So not only do we have this podcast, we have Cumberland Valley SHRM too. So
Yeah.
there's a really great community out there. And as I always say at the end of each episode, I want you to keep working on yourself.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond HR podcast. We hope today's episode inspired you to reflect and grow in your own HR journey. Connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Beyond HR Podcast. If you found value here, share it with your fellow HR professionals. Until next time, keep making an impact on yourself.